So for those of you watching from home and for those of you with me here live, we're jumping into the deep dive portion, and I'm going to give just a little context into how we're kicking this off. So the question from Agnes was, what if you don't have a program ready to go? Right? It's in this initial phase. It's not quite ready to have a bunch of people in. You're not feeling super confident about the whole thing. What do you do in this interim while you're building your class? And so how I wanted to start answering this question is going back into what makes a program successful. So I'm just going to bring something up on my screen really quick. I wanted to go back through the 4 elements, which I have here, and I'm going to bring those up for you. That is what makes your program successful. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so this is a formula. Hopefully you've seen this in the program so far. And we divide a course into these 3 things, right? The first phase is expanding someone's mindset. And then it's the clarity. So there's the expansion, the practice, and then they come back for clarity. So the reason I want you thinking about running a smaller version in a one-on-one capacity is because what you want to be able to do is teach a little bit of your content, which is easier to do one-on-one. You don't have to have a lot of things prepared for that. But what's most important to you is what is the clarity that they needed after they did the training session. This piece right here, this clarity is hands down the most missing element in every single course and program that I review. So we all know how to give information, and we do a fairly good job of giving people actions to take, right? So it's like, give them information, give them actions to take. But what's generally missing is what were the roadblocks, the barriers, and the obstacles to them being able to actually take that action. So when you work with someone one-on-one, it is super easy at the start of every single session. And I'm just going to go back and forth because I can't stand being a little window. It's super easy at the start of every single session. So what was the most valuable thing I taught you? The rest of it you can literally throw out. Because if it's not valuable to them, right? And after time, like this is a time thing, right? So when 3 or 4 or 5 people tell you the same thing, that's a really vital piece of content. And then when you come back and you say, so what got in your way? They will tell you. They won't necessarily tell you on their own, but when you directly ask and you give people permission to be really honest with you, they will tell you, oh, well, you know what, when I didn't quite know how to do this. Or, I got to be honest with you, I looked at it and I was like, no way can I do that. They're giving you clues as to what is getting in their way. And that's when you start creating the rich content that helps solve the barriers to performance. So when you think about, the value of designing a program in real time, it's that this should feel a little bit more confident for you. It's your expertise. Now, maybe you're not necessarily 100% sure how to package it. We can work through that. But these are things to be true, right? They're the things, they're your pillars, they're your platform, they're the solutions you get for people. You know them to be true. What you don't know is, did you say it in a way that people understood? Is there a common roadblock or barrier that they ran up against? So when you run these as either small group sessions, in the beginning, some people in the beginning will host a workshop that's 3 sessions. Some people will do it one-on-one. There's not a right or wrong way, but we love you getting into immediate action with these things. Some people can host them for free. So you can, like Agnes was talking about, having like a free master class. That's a great way for you to try out content. What do people sign up for? Does it land? Does it hit? And then you can follow up with them. Hey, were you able to do anything with that? Whoa, tell me about that. What got in your way? And start solving things for problems. These are 2 really important phases. And then where we're really going to spend time on today is what makes a program, really successful, are removing the predictable barriers that limit, stop, and derail. And again, until you've run something a couple of times, you actually don't know what the most predictable things are. Now, when it comes to your content, so we're going to give you in the design phase what we know to be true universally about human behavior. So you're going to have that. So you're going to know those things, and we're going to teach you how to build little things in there that solve these bigger problems. But what you won't know is when it comes to your specific content, what is a barrier? What gets in people's way? What do they need to know a little bit more as? So that's why we say the original question from Agnes was, when do you start hosting? As soon as possible. As soon as possible. Because remember, most people are not even to the point of offering a group training program until they've been doing this either as part of their job or they've been doing this in a one-to-one model. So it's not like you're starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. A lot of times the concern is, I don't have all the things. I don't have the worksheets and the handbooks, and I don't have all the things. The things are only needed for scale and volume. Mm-hmm. Remember that, scale and volume. And you can create things in the moment. So you don't need to create all the things. You just need to create the things for the first workshop. Then you create the things for the next workshop, right? And you just keep building from there. So I hope that helps, answer that question for you. And hold on a second. I just want to make sure I'm sharing my screen. And then I've sort of made a commitment to myself that there's just certain things that, we want rolling through your mind on automatic pilot. And this is going to be one of those things that you're going to see ad nauseum on purpose. Because the only way for you to remember something is to hear it ad nauseum, until the point where you're like, please, for the love of God, Susan, don't say this one more time. When you feel that way about something I'm saying, I've done my job. Because here's the truth. In the marketing world, they already know, in order for a potential client to even remember your name and your product, they actually have to be exposed to it 36 times.
Oh my God.
Crazy, right? Yeah. And we teach a class once and go, I don't know, they didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right? So there's certain things that you are so foundational that people just need to know them ad nauseum. And for me, this is it. So these are the 4 elements: your curated content, which is your on-demand content, your live events, which are what we're going to be talking about today, the 2 different styles of live events. One is a live workshop, and one is a live coaching or advisory session, however you view yourself. Some of our clients consider themselves coaches. Some of them consider themselves advisors. In our world, we consider it the same thing. And then, of course, it's the human engagement. So how do you keep people actively involved and moving forward? It's like herding sheep, right? Most people get distracted, lost, confused, and they just go, okay, never mind. So half your battle is just keeping people engaged. And then the biggest thing you can do for people is to create the safe environment, like a space like this, where you can talk freely, where you can connect with other people, where you can be free to say things that are uncomfortable, right? Free to take, actions that are new. This is ultimately where people really grow and make massive leaps when you include this type of thing. If I were to draw a line straight down the middle, which is what I like to do, the majority of programs focus, this is content. Over here is content. As you start to get into the coaching, and then on this side, the engagement and the safe environment, this is where we start to see significant results and start to see your program be the best that it can be. But we have to start over here, right? You have to start with the content, and then we start building these things in from here. So with that, any questions, Agnes?
No, super clear.
Super clear. Awesome. I love that. Thank you for letting me know. So let's talk about just overall differences between a training workshop and an advisory or a coaching workshop. If I were to ask you just off the top of your head, what do you think are just some differences that might be true about those two things?
I'm just thinking that with the advisory one, I mean, I don't know this 100% for sure, but what comes to mind is that you're advising how to do things, but not necessarily saying how to do it, or give the opportunity to see the other person doing it and provide feedback. With
Yes.
coaching, it could be that could be the case, because you are coaching, you are with the person while they're doing it almost. And you're observing them and you are asking those questions. So what was hard for you? Let's troubleshoot together. Let's try it in this different way. I don't know. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And there's a couple of words in there that I'll pull out that I think are really important. Anything that falls under the heading of how to, right? Anything that falls under the headings of explain, demonstrate, understand, this is how you do this. And I'm going to show you something called Bloom's taxonomy. I'm going to show you something because it's really a great way to think about how to set up your training course. This is something they teach in instructional design school, is Bloom's taxonomy, because it's the framework for how high a level thought is this class. And remember, your curated content, we always want it to be the least layers, right? So the understand, the explain, even demonstrate, even how to can all be over there. The higher level thinking of analysis, descriptions, synthesis, those are what we want you as the expert teaching. That's teaching, right?
Mhm.
Teaching is showing the path, giving practice and examples. And then on the heels of that, you give an assignment that someone goes to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. So that's typical teaching, which is needed and necessary.
Mhm.
The problem, right, with it is that it doesn't help the person when they go out to do something for the first time and it doesn't work very well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we love this concept of having curated content. This is a good flow, right? Curated content that expands. Then they come to you live and you teach. Then you give them an assignment and they come back for a coaching or advisory session. And we call them different things. So we call them master workshops. We call them coaching corners. We call them clarity sessions. Some of the things like, so if you look at how this is set up, this is a teaching segment. So we have this happening with inside the same thing. This is a teaching segment. We're laying foundational knowledge. We're expanding upon things you already know. We are building your foundation, right? All of those things are happening here. But after this section is over, we're actually going to flip to where you're doing more of the work.
Mhm.
And we're actually doing the things that you would do, like holding up a mirror, right? Helping to unkink the performance hose, giving you some things to think about, some redirection, some guidance, and different things like that. So you were really spot on about that. When you're thinking about these two models, you always want to be teaching and giving an assignment that they go do. Then your next session is, how did it go? Right? How did it go? What worked? What didn't? What got in the way? What do we need to solve? What more do you need to learn? Those are more of the coaching and advisory type sessions. What questions do you have about that? Any questions about that?
I was just wondering that about, so that's the purpose of the hot seats. That's what they're trying to do during that hour where
Yes.
they have people asking questions, and sometimes I just feel there is very little time, and people sometimes, like, you only have 10 minutes. I don't know, sometimes it's not that efficient, and that's the only opportunity that the coach has to
To give. Yes. So let's talk about what are some names for this stuff, right? So a hot seat is exactly what you're saying. It's a chance to have live coaching by someone who's an expert in that particular area. And it's very common. It's very common in a lot of programs. The problem with it is that, everybody has a different need. So you could literally be sitting through someone's session and never even get to you.
Mhm.
Or, if you have too many people in the program, or you're just like filling your time listening to other people until it's your turn. Now, there's some really good things to it, because one of the things I like about the hot seat concept is that there are things you wouldn't even know to ask. So if you just ask somebody, what can I help you with? They don't even know sometimes what they need help with. So when you listen to other people's coaching sessions, you're often exposed to things that maybe you haven't even experienced yet. So some of that is really helpful. But this is why, instead of just general hot seats, and again, it'll be a little bit more dependent on how your program is set up, but the hot seat should be about a specific skill or a step in your process or a category, so that it's relevant to everyone in that moment. So for example, like, tell me about, I can tell you just from being in other programs, like you would just show up to a branding call, right? We're going to talk about branding today. This is from but branding is like a huge, unique topic. So how can you set it up so that there is a specific focus that people know they're going to get? That's when the group experience gets really powerful. And that's how I like to see advisory sessions run. What people need more of, and most people haven't figured out how to give that, is that individualized support. So individualized support is expensive, right? It's time consuming. It is, requires bigger teams. There's a lot of, it makes the program more expensive. But again, that's why we come back to, so first of all, is your program too broad? And that we see a lot. Like, is your program too broad? Is it trying to cover too many things? Like, sometimes when you're in a business development program, it's an ecosystem of like, here's marketing, here's sales, here's this, here's that. Like, a lot of times we feel that we're doing our people a favor by giving them access to everything. And that's actually the worst thing you can do. You want to give people access to the thing that the immediate problem they're looking to solve. So even if your program has lots of pieces, fine, but you want to make sure that your people are focused on one piece and not all of it, and that there's a coordinating call for that piece in and of itself. And then, and again, you shouldn't have to rely so much on hot seats, because if you already know what the most common obstacles are, you have a tool or a resource or a clarity exercise that you can give to people on their own. So again, what a lot of people do is they build all these things, but they make everything available. One of the things we do for our clients more than anything else is we pretty much go and take everything out of their portal and only put back the things that people need. And then we have a chunk of content for the problems they can't solve for themselves. And then if and when a person needs that, you have that specific tool. So it cuts down on overwhelm, it cuts down on confusion, right? It cuts down on that. Now, I don't want you to worry about it too much, because you have to have more than, 20 to 25 people to where this becomes a problem. In smaller groups of 8, 10, 12, you can easily do a hot seat coaching for every single person in an advisory session. And you can schedule them. So you actually don't have to sit on a whole call. You should know when yours is scheduled. and you can schedule it. And, if other people are on, great. If other people aren't, fine. It's easier in a smaller program.
Sounds good.
So let's talk a little bit, a couple of other things about the difference between, teaching concepts and advisory concepts. Let me give you a couple of words. Actually, let's do it this way. I want to talk about some common things that you've either said or that we hear other people say in programs. And I want you to, and we're going to brainstorm. It'll be just you and I, Agnes, playing around with this. And those of you watching on the replay, I'm going to pause for a second so that you can play along as well. And then we'll give you the answer. So I'll go ahead and start off. This is something that I hear in programs all the time. And it has to do with the facilitators, with the owners of the program. And they say something like this: I cannot believe that they still don't get it. I have taught this concept so many times. How can they still not be getting it? If you hear that coming out of your mouth, right, when you're a facilitator, what do we think? Does that mean that you need to focus more on teaching, or that you need to focus more on building out the advisory side?
Yeah, focus more on how you're teaching.
So it could be, yeah, so that's one of them, right? So anyone that wrote down on the teaching side, maybe it has more to do with how you were teaching.
I also think about people have different learning styles, and sometimes we teach in the way that we learned without taking into account that some people are not very visual. They need to listen to audio many times, or I don't know. So just think about that too. I constantly think about that. Like, people have different learning styles, and that can impact on how they absorb the information.
Yep, I love that too. So so sometimes that's an indication that maybe you need to tweak your content. And again, we're not going to do this today, but in the portal is our content framework. One of the things we know to be hands down 100% true is we try and teach too much.
Yes.
Always. And we do it with the best of intentions and huge hearts, right? I want to give my people everything, Susan. They have to know everything. Nope. They need to know this thing. What's this thing?
I'm so glad you're mentioning that, because I think that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to have to work on.
Everyone does. Thank you for being so honest.
Oh, yes. I'm a fact finder on Colby. So
okay.
I will give you the whole library.
Yes.
Answer one question.
With best of intentions. Again, we're trying to always model everything. So go to think about how we have the portal set up. How many steps are there?
4.
And how long is the content in each of those 4 steps?
Well, I haven't gone through all of them, but
I can tell you they're less than 15 minutes each. And it's actually way harder to reduce content because we're like, but Susan, I hear this all the time. They need to know this. Yes, they do. But what's the order in which they need to know it? Because you can really only absorb 1 or 2 or 3 pieces of information in a short amount of time. And then, sometimes I'll see 10 things you can do. This is common, right? I'm going to give a list of 10 things you can do to book your calendar with consults. And I'm going to give you 3 bonuses. The problem is they only need 1 that works. So you can give us 13, but remember, we're not advanced. We're newbies. And if I knew how to do all these, I wouldn't need you. So what I want you to tell me as a participant is, what's the one damn thing that's going to get me the result that I want? And that's how I want you thinking about your content. Yes, you can give them everything, and then I would hear this in a program that I was in all the time. They would get mad. The facilitators, if you find yourself getting mad, I want you to start getting really curious. I want you to actually be grateful to yourself. If you are frustrated, if you are angry, because you'll get there. And it's because, always remember, you're the expert. So this is super simple for you. For the rest of us, it is the most complicated thing we have ever done. Remember, if I could do it for myself, I would not have hired you. I cannot.
Exactly.
I cannot do it for myself. And I don't have your level of expertise, and I'm scared to death to try it. And there's things I don't know. And when I was 5, I did this, and something terrible happened to me, and I've never forgotten it. And I'll never, I'm always amazed at how many things I can trace back to, like when I was in kindergarten, or like when I was in elementary school. Like I am forever rooting things out of my life that were beliefs from such an early childhood that it's astounding to me. So, so when you hear yourself being frustrated, it's probably because you're moving faster than your people can go. And I want to show something really quick. Hold on, let me just find the right slide in this. I have like my big deck here. Okay, I love this slide. I love this slide. Again, this is going to help speak to the difference between coaching and training sessions. So remember, this is you right here. You are in the pool of whatever your pool is. Agnes, what's your pool? When people are in the pool with you, what will they be able to do?
Have fun.
So what is the, so let's let me just make this a little bit clearer. What is the big result that you get your people, or that you want to get your people at the end of the program? What's the kind of the North Star?
Make peace with their body image and food. Learn to eat in a flexible way without being afraid of foods.
Okay. So people in the pool, right, have a completely different relationship with food. They see themselves in a different light. And what's probably happening for them? Are they losing? Is this a weight? Like, what's the change? Is it a change in weight? Is it just a change in
how they relate to food and their body image, their bodies? How right now they don't respect their bodies. They don't think there is anything good about it because of their size and their weight. They don't have any appreciation.
I love that. Okay.
They want to be someone different.
Yep. So I think it's really safe to say in here that they feel the most confident and comfortable in their own skin. I will actually have people, I think this is fun too. I am without a doubt the heaviest I've ever been right now, but because I'm so comfortable with myself in a way I've never been before, I actually have people comment all the time, have you lost weight? And every time they say that to me, I like smile. I feel so good inside because I am so internally confident. I'm no longer faking the outside. I was faking the outside for a really, really long time, right? You know, that duck that like is all put together on the top, but underneath they're like this. And we tend to like pride ourselves I think as a country that we do that, right? This is exactly what you're talking about. No, that's a self-loathing, self-hatred, right? That creates, inconsistencies, all this stuff. So your people are in the pool, right? When, even though they might not be their ideal weight, they still think they're the most beautiful person they could be.
Oh, yes. Even
if they're not, right? That's the holy grail, right? So how do we get people into this pool, right? This is what I want you to see. It's these folks right here, that they were like almost there and needed a turn of the dial. They needed a missing piece of information, a piece of clarity, these are the ones that when you tell somebody something once, they went, they did it, they got it, they jumped in the pool, right? Everybody over here, and you can see they get further and further away from the pool. So they have more and more obstacles they need to jump over. This person had a training issue. So when you do a training session for this person, they get a result. This person have different hoops that they need to jump through. These all have far more to do with coaching and advising sessions than they have to do with teaching sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we always say, you know, listen, I'm a training person, but your training content is actually the least valuable element in the whole kit and caboodle, which is so, you know, I did a recording on this the other day too. It's actually so humbling for me to say. It was the most humbling experience I ever had to realize that my profession of designing the perfect training scenario was 1/4 of what I needed to get everybody in the pool. And that's what I really want everyone to walk away with. The training that we spend all our time and money and budget and resources on is needed. It's necessary. We want to make it really good. But these are the things right here. And I'm going to just give you names for each of these. Okay. And we'll spend more time with this. This guy up here, he's like, he's kind of in this place. And actually, I was just doing this with someone earlier. I want to get her words too. You know, actually, let's start this way. This one over here is basically saying, I can't. I know I paid the money. I know I showed up. I know I need this, but I just can't. I don't know how to take what you're telling me here and actually go do something with it. Mm-hmm. This is where that safe space for them, that psychological safe space for them to explore the deeper roots of what's holding them back completely. These are like complete blocks right here. This group here is I will and I'll try, right? But I'm going to need to be empowered to take action. I need you to be available to answer questions. I need to feel supported, right? These are all coaching and advising things. This is why your coaching and advisory sessions are so valuable. And then we get to this guy right here, and he just needs the clarity. You know, or he or she or they just need that little piece of extra information, the thing I didn't know, put everything into place, enabled me to jump. We call it the slide of courage that jumped me into the pool. And then with repeated practice, I'll be right here. This is the life cycle, basically, of a well-constructed program. And the difference between training, which as you can see, training is squarely here and a little bit here, but most of it is coaching and advisory sessions.
Can I ask you, what would be your advice for this? I'm good over here, thanks. That has more blocks.
I'm good over here, thanks. So yeah, so great question. And it depends on when you're talking about this. So I use this analogy getting people into my program. And then I use this analogy managing people through my program. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about this in the context of they've already paid and they're in your program. Is that where you're asking from the context of this?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're already paid and they're in your program, they truly want to be here. They are just literally blocked. And you are going to have to decide that you are willing to help them, right? And that you're vested in helping them to uncover more of the fear. So, and we'll talk about this in the safety zone, but this is almost always a fear, guilt, and shame. Almost always fear, guilt, or shame related issue that has popped up for them in the past. And that's keeping them over here. And people in this phase would much rather think, this is what is astounding to me. I'm going to take the camera off just for this. People in that phase all the way over there would much rather have you believe that they're not smart, that they're lazy, that they're unmotivated, but right, they would rather have you believe anything other than there's a fear, guilt, or shame piece driving them. And a lot of times it's actually unknown.
And the advisory sessions would be enough, or maybe you would suggest to have a few one-on-one to go deeper with those blocks?
It could be. And again, think about like how we start off every meeting with, so what we need to do is let them know that everybody else feels that way too. They often feel very isolated. They don't believe that anybody else, because everybody else we all look very put together, right? We all like, we're showing up every day, you know, unless we're in a true depressive state, we're pretty much showing up in the world with our face on, right? Hiding whatever it is that we're masking underneath. So in a psychologically safe space, we can be a little bit more vulnerable, and other people are willing to actually say, well, this was really hard for me. I felt like somebody was going to think I was blah, 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 blah. And I can't tell you how many times other people would say, I thought it was just me.
Yeah, I've heard
that. I thought it was just me. So we can talk through individually in programs. You will have many people like this in your program. If I show you just this one more time, when you think about percentages, remember I gave you the percentage. So 10 to 15% of your group is here. I love to call these guys the quick, guys, girls, theys, the quick starts.
Okay.
They were already like on the verge, and you gave them what they needed and they were off and running. This is only 10% of your population. This group over here, like truly stuck this far, again, 10 to 15% of your population. It's really the bulk of your people. The bulk of your people are sitting up here in these two. This is a good 80% of your program right here.
Okay.
So, these, and again, like these are the ones that can, take the most of your time.
Mm-hmm.
They can also be the ones that are most fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
It really does just depend on how willing they are. That's why we call it the willingness factor.
Mm-hmm.
If they're in your program, we want to believe that there is willingness there, but sometimes we do actually recommend it's better to cut ties. It really, it can be so mentally exhausting, that it is better to, if they're not willing to commit, we'll have commit conversations. Like if you're not willing to commit to take these actions at this time, then, here's where we're going to recommend you go spend your time, right? And when you're ready, come back. Like I'd rather have you release somebody and send them where they should be, because odds are they might come back to you. Remember, we're creating programs that have longevity. We're not creating a program that, I hope that whatever program you're creating lives at least 5 to 10 years. That's a nice average.
Yeah, me too.
It's a really nice average. And, we want to see you, so you never know who's going to come back in that time. So any questions on this at this point?
No, that was my question.
Awesome. So for anyone out there watching, I hope that this little bit of a deep dive between the differences between a live teaching session and a live advisory session, what they look like. A couple of resources that I'm going to send along with this is I did find a really nice little link for Bloom's Taxonomy. So if you've never experienced Bloom's Taxonomy before, it is a really great instructional design tool, and it helps you to think about the big goal for each of your training sessions. And they give you words that will hit on the different levels, these different advanced levels. This is a really nice one pager that I found. I'm going to send that because I think that's good for you to see as you're writing content. And then I don't have at this point a specific coaching model that we sanction or use, but it is one of the things that if you tell me that should be a part of the program, we will look at building that in. So I'm definitely interested in hearing from anyone watching in the future. And of course, Agnes, with you today, if you feel like you need, so we did a really great job in the portal of giving you a content planner, giving you a process. Like, remember you were asking, like you were talking about that earlier, that's already created, but there really isn't, the only thing we have template, and which I will share as well. We do have a template for what an advisory session would look like. So what are the pieces of an advisory session? We do have that, but we don't necessarily recommend a coaching model or an advisory model. So we can talk about that in the future. So certainly get back to me on those items. At this point, I'm going to stop the recording